You wake up in a stone room with no windows. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and old olive oil. The floor beneath you is hard and cold. Your skin stings where rough hands left bruises last night. You shift slightly, and the iron shackle around your ankle scrapes your raw skin. Dried blood flakes off. In the distance, you hear laughter echoing from the main house. Bright, careless laughter that makes your stomach twist. You already know what kind of day it's going to be. Footsteps, heavy sandals on marble. That sound alone sends your heart racing. It's him, the overseer. You grab the thin tunic crumpled in the corner and pull it over your sore body. You're 15, or maybe 16. You stopped counting birthdays when you got here, when time stopped feeling like it belonged to you. The door creaks open, metal against stone. Sunlight floods in, blinding you. You squint, raising your hand to shield your face. His shadow blocks the light, tall, thick, scarred. His voice cuts through the silence. Clean yourself. He tosses a damp cloth at your feet. The master has guests tonight. You know what that means. His eyes linger on you with that same cold, appraising stare. You've seen it before. The way traders examine a horse before purchase. You're not a person here. You're property. Entertainment. Your throat tightens. Your mind flashes back to the night they took you from your village. You were screaming. They didn't care. They said your family's debt had been paid. With you. That was the price. A debt cleared in flesh. This wasn't just your story. It was the fate of thousands like you in ancient Greece. The version we're taught, the one full of democracy, philosophy, and marble statues, rarely mentions what happened in the shadows. Behind the grand columns, underneath the poetry and politics, was a system built on the backs of the forgotten. Children sold, families torn apart, lives stolen before they even had a chance to begin. Before we go deeper into this world, into the pain, the survival, and the silent strength of those lost to history, if you're drawn to the stories they didn't teach in school, consider subscribing. These aren't tales of kings and generals. These are the voices buried beneath the ruins. And somehow, through time and dust, they still speak. The truth is, your fate was sealed long before you understood what was happening. Maybe your family owed silver to a wealthy man. Maybe your village was raided in the chaos of endless war. Maybe you were just born beautiful in a world that turned beauty into currency. In small farming communities scattered across the countryside, life hung by a thread. A single bad harvest could mean disaster. A father's injury, a mother's death. These things could turn survival into an impossible dream. And when desperation came knocking, it didn't ask nicely. The merchants arrived quietly, but you could feel the change. They set up in the village center, their wagons full of chains, ledgers, and promises. They offered payment, sometimes even called it opportunity. 20 years of service for enough silver to keep a family alive. It sounded fair. It sounded merciful. But you were 12. You didn't understand what they were really buying. You just knew your father wouldn't look at you while they counted the silver. Your mother turned away as they inspected your teeth. They told you it was temporary, that you'd come back with skills, money, maybe even land of your own one day, that you'd be treated well. Their words were soft, but their eyes were hard. The first chain went around your neck, and everything changed. The journey to the city is a blur of dust, chains, and exhaustion. You're one among dozens now, boys and young men bound together by iron collars and frayed ropes. Your feet bleed from walking barefoot over stone roads. Your lips crack under the sun. There's no privacy, no comfort. Only the slow, endless march forward. And behind you, the life you knew fades like a dream you can't remember anymore. The older boys don't speak much. They walk with their heads down. They've already learned that hope only makes things worse. The younger ones still cry, calling for mothers who will never come. Some cry until their voices are gone. Others until the overseers make them stop with fists and sticks. You pass through rolling hills, olive groves, and coastlines that shimmer under the sun. It should be beautiful, but you don't see it. Your world has shrunk to the rhythm of footsteps, the weight of the chain pulling at your neck, and the ache in your legs that never quite fades. At night, they stake your chain to the ground like you're a goat. You sleep on bare earth, cold and hungry, listening to the soft sobs of strangers you're now chained to. Sometimes the merchants bring buyers to inspect the group. Wealthy men in fine clothes with soft hands and sharp eyes. They walk slowly between the lines of boys, pointing, whispering. Their hands touch your shoulders, your arms, your face. They check for disease, for strength, for obedience. One man runs his fingers through your hair and comments on its color. Another presses your chest, nodding to the merchant beside him. You learn quickly that there are different kinds of buyers. The ones who run farms want strong backs and big hands, field work, long hours under the sun. The ones who run households want something else, quiet eyes, soft manners, a polite voice, boys who will not cause trouble. But there's another kind, the kind that doesn't look at you like a worker. They look at you like something they want to own for reasons they don't say out loud. But their eyes say enough. Eventually, you arrive at the city, Athens. To outsiders, it's the jewel of the Greek world, a place of theater, knowledge, and debate. But for you, it's the place where the last of your freedom is stripped away. The slave market is chaos. Noise hits first. Hundreds of voices shouting, bargaining, crying. Then the smell, sweat, fear, urine, heat, and then the sight. Bodies lined up like livestock. Children barely old enough to stand. Old men who can't anymore. Women clinging to babies. Naked, silent, waiting. You're bathed and oiled before sale. Not out of kindness, but to make you shine. To show off your body. Clean skin fetches a higher price. Someone decides you're too attractive for the fields. You're placed with the household slaves, the ones meant to serve inside, the ones expected to smile. The auctioneer steps onto a platform and announces your age, your origin, your strength, your pleasant appearance. The crowd murmurs. Men begin bidding. You feel hands on your back, your arms, your mouth. Your teeth are checked. Your grip is tested. You don't move. You don't speak. You're no longer a boy. You're a product. The man who wins you is called Lysander. You don't know his name yet, but you see the way he smiles as he counts out the silver. His eyes never leave you. Not even when the chain is removed from your neck. Not even when you're led away. He lives in a great house in the wealthiest part of Athens. It has marble columns, painted walls, and a garden bigger than your whole village. You see other boys there, clean, dressed in thin tunics, all of them silent. They avoid your eyes. They already know what you don't. You're given to an overseer named Demetrius, a former slave who now keeps the others in line. He explains the rules. You eat when told. Speak only when spoken to. Never meet a free person's eyes. You serve the master and his guests in all things. At first, you try to believe the promises they made, that if you obey, things might not be so bad, that you'll learn skills, gain trust, earn privileges. But the truth doesn't take long to reveal itself. Your days are filled with silence and fear. You move through the halls of Lysander's house like a shadow, watching, listening, trying not to draw attention. The slightest mistake can mean punishment. A dropped plate, a glance in the wrong direction, a moment too slow in responding. You scrub floors, wash linens, serve wine, and then come the symposium nights. You hear about them before you experience one. The others warn you. They speak in whispers. Some refuse to talk about them at all. But the fear in their eyes says enough. The symposium is a grand tradition in Athens, a gathering of educated men, philosophers, poets, politicians. They recline on couches, drink wine, debate politics, art, the nature of the universe. That's the image. That's the illusion. But underneath the words and laughter, something darker waits. Before the guests arrive, the slaves are prepared, bathed again, skin oiled until it shines. You're given a new tunic, thinner than the last. It clings to your body, leaving little to the imagination. Sometimes they even put jewelry on you, bracelets, necklaces, golden touches, to make you look more like decoration than person. The symposium starts with conversation. The men speak of honor, virtue, the soul. They recite poetry and toast the greatness of Athens. You move around the room, silent, refilling cups, offering food, pretending not to hear their jokes or notice their eyes. But as the night deepens and the wine flows, the mood shifts. The laughter gets louder. The stories cruder. Eyes linger longer. One guest beckons you to his couch. He says he wants company. He speaks softly, asking questions about your village, your family. His hand rests on your arm, then your back. You try to pull away. His grip tightens. Other guests watch with quiet interest. Some smirk. Others look bored. No one stops what's coming. That night stays with you forever. You don't remember every detail. You remember the sound of laughter as you begged them to stop. You remember the pain, the silence afterward. You remember lying on the cold floor of your cell, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how something so terrible could be so normal to them. But this was only the beginning. In the months that follow, the pattern repeats. Every symposium becomes a test of survival. Some guests are gentler, some are monsters, some want conversation, others want obedience without a word. You learn to read them. You learn what they want before they ask. Not to please them, but to avoid worse. Some boys break quickly, others last longer. A few find ways to disappear inside themselves. They move like ghosts, faces empty, voices hollow. It's not that they don't feel, it's that feeling has become too dangerous. You meet Marcus, who tried to escape once. They found him by the city gate, barely conscious. The overseers beat him so badly he limped for months. Then there's Alexios, older, strong. He refused a guest's request one night. Spent 3 days chained outside without food or water. After that, he never refused again. There's also Philemon, just 14. He came from a merchant family. His father lost everything, including his children. Philemon has been here for 6 months. He's the one who explains the final truth. The symposiums aren't about food or philosophy. They're about power. They're about control. The guests come not for what the slaves say, but for what they can take. And no one in Athens questions it. Because in their world, this is all perfectly normal. And you realize painfully that your suffering isn't a secret. It's entertainment. Time loses meaning inside the house. Days blur together, marked only by the rhythm of commands and punishments. You wake, you serve, you sleep. If you're lucky. If not, you're summoned. The guests come often. Some familiar, others new. But they all carry the same entitlement, the same hunger masked by poetry and perfume. You start to see patterns. Certain guests prefer certain slaves. You're warned in advance. Tonight it's the merchant who enjoys silence. Tomorrow, the politician who wants resistance, just to crush it. The slaves speak in code when they can, warning each other. A look, a nod, a shift in breath. You become fluent in survival without words. You watch new boys arrive, wide-eyed and trembling, just like you were. Some cry the first night. Some try to be brave. You see yourself in them. And you watch how quickly they disappear, not physically, but emotionally. Their eyes go dull. Their voices vanish. They learn, just as you did, that here, kindness can be fatal, and dignity is a memory you must forget. The violence becomes routine. It isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in a touch that lasts too long, a command delivered with a smile. Sometimes it's sudden, a slap across the face because you looked too slowly. Other times it's a calculated ritual. The guest demands more. The overseer agrees, and you have no say. You begin to separate from your body. You float above yourself, watching as someone else suffers. It's the only way to survive. Your body becomes a tool. Something used, broken, healed, and used again. You stop thinking of it as yours. But the cruelty doesn't just come from the guests. It lives in the walls. It lives in the system. You're given just enough food to stay upright, just enough rest to keep working. You're punished not only for failure, but sometimes for no reason at all. One day you're rewarded for your obedience, the next beaten for smiling too long. There is no logic, only control. Demetrius knows this game well. He was once in your place, and now he teaches obedience through fear. He says resistance brings pain, submission brings comfort, and he's not wrong, at least not entirely. The boys who smile, who flatter, who go willingly, sometimes get better treatment, a softer blanket, an extra fig. But the cost is high. Every time you pretend it doesn't hurt, you lose a piece of yourself. You hear stories about slaves who made it out, who were freed after years of service, but you've never met one. You've seen boys disappear, but they don't come back. No one really talks about freedom, not because it's impossible, but because hoping for it feels like bleeding into an empty well. Your world becomes small. The walls of your cell, the kitchen, the dining hall, the courtyard where the overseers watch you like hawks. The touch of another slave's hand, brief and secret, becomes the only form of comfort. Some nights, you and the others huddle close, not speaking, just breathing, just reminding yourselves you're still alive. But even those bonds are fragile. The promise of slightly better treatment can turn friends into spies. Someone whispers a secret to the overseer. Someone disappears. Trust dies quietly, like everything else here. Sometimes late at night you try to remember your mother's face, her voice, the smell of home. But it gets harder with each passing day. Those memories fade, replaced by things you wish you could forget. And the most terrifying part, you start to forget that this isn't normal. The guests who visit Lysander's house are the elite of Athenian society, men with power, wealth, and names carved into history. Some are lawmakers, shaping the rules of the city. Others are philosophers, writing about justice, ethics, and the noble soul. Artists, poets, generals. They are admired, respected, remembered. But behind closed doors, when no one is watching, their true nature unfolds, and it's nothing like what the statues or scrolls would have you believe. There's Dionysius, a famous politician known for his speeches on morality and public virtue. In the Symposium, he forces you to kneel while he quotes from Homer, laughing each time you flinch. Then there's Cleomenes, a merchant praised for donating grain during a famine. His reputation masks a taste for violence, a belief that pain teaches discipline. He says suffering is a gift. You learn quickly that his gifts leave bruises and broken skin. Most disturbing of all is the sophist, a philosopher celebrated for his writings on ethics and the divine order. He speaks of the soul's pursuit of truth and virtue, and then turns to you with eyes empty of both. His hands carry the same cruelty as the others, but his words twist it, dressing it in philosophy, making it feel even more grotesque. He tells you that some people are born to serve, that your suffering is part of a greater design, that pain can be purifying, and then he inflicts it. These men don't believe they're doing anything wrong. In their world, the rules are different for people like you. Their codes of honor, kindness, and justice apply to citizens, not property. In their minds, a man can be noble in the agora and monstrous in the bedroom, and never see the contradiction. This isn't just personal failure. It's structural. The entire society is built this way. The wealth that funds art and architecture, the leisure that allows time for poetry and politics, all of it rests on the backs of people like you, the enslaved, the invisible, the discarded. You begin to understand why no one speaks out, because to question your treatment would be to question the system that gives these men their power, and no one wants to do that, not when their lives are so comfortable, so celebrated. As the years pass, your survival depends on adapting. You learn how to anticipate moods, which guest prefers flattery, which one responds to silence. You learn how to disappear into a role, how to act obedient without being broken, how to smile without feeling, how to endure without showing pain. But every survival strategy has a cost. Each compromise chips away at something inside you, the part of you that once believed in fairness, in kindness, in home. That part grows quiet. Sometimes it vanishes. You're not the only one. The other slaves change too.
Some become numb. Others grow calculating, always watching, measuring risk. A few still fight back in small ways, refusing to show fear, refusing to forget who they were. But even the strongest among you are worn down by the weight of daily humiliation. You share what you can with each other. A stolen piece of fruit, a whispered joke, a hand on the shoulder when words are too dangerous. These are the things that keep you human in a world trying to make you forget you ever were. But there's no hiding from the truth, no safe corner in the house. The next guest could be worse than the last, the next order more degrading. And no matter how much you adapt, no matter how well you play your part, you know deep down, they will never see you as anything more than a thing to be used.
As more time passes, your old self begins to fade into memory. The laughter you once knew, the dreams you once had, they drift further and further away. You become someone else, someone who moves carefully, speaks only when needed, and never lets their eyes rise too high. You are still alive, but only just. The abuse is no longer a surprise. Some guests come for conversation, others come for control. Some prefer bruises you can't see, others don't care who's watching. You've been through it all. What stings most now isn't the pain, but the way they laugh while doing it. The way they interrupt a debate on democracy to slap a slave across the face. The way they praise love and wisdom while demanding acts too cruel to describe. You try to disconnect from your own body. Let it become a shell while your spirit hides somewhere far away. You go through the motions. You do what you're told. And if you're lucky, they won't ask for more than that. But luck never lasts long. The cruelty becomes routine. It's not punishment. It's performance. You're not being corrected for doing something wrong. You're being used to entertain. For many of the guests, hurting you is part of the evening's pleasure. And when it ends, they leave without a second thought. As if you're just another cup to be set aside when the wine is gone. Some slaves lose the will to keep going. You've seen it happen. A boy who stops eating. A girl who stares into nothing for days. They're replaced quickly. The slave market is never empty. There's always another shipment. Always another desperate family somewhere in the countryside, forced to trade a child's future for a few months of survival. What breaks you more than anything is the silence of the world outside. The city that praises beauty and intellect turns a blind eye to what happens behind closed doors. The same hands that sculpt statues and write poetry also leave scars. The society that speaks of justice and virtue accepts your suffering as a fact of life. It is part of the system, and the system is never questioned. Some nights you lie awake on your straw mattress and try to remember your real name. Not the one they gave you. The one from your village. The one your mother whispered when she held you. But it slips away. It always slips away. Replaced by commands, by shame, by the echo of footsteps coming down the hall. And still, you survive. Somehow. You find strength in the quiet moments. The glance from another slave who understands, the rare kindness of a hand squeezing yours when the pain becomes too much. These small human touches become your anchors, proof that, despite everything, you haven't vanished completely. But you wonder, how long can this last? How much of yourself can be taken before there's nothing left? You once thought the worst thing they could do was hurt your body, but now you know better. The real violence is what they take from your spirit, the way they make you doubt your own worth, the way they force you to live a life that's not really living. You think of the philosophers who argue about the soul, the artists who celebrate human beauty, the leaders who praise virtue, and you wonder how they can speak so beautifully while living with so much cruelty. Maybe the truth is that they don't see the contradiction, or maybe they do, and they just don't care.